Hello beautiful people, my name's Stephanie. Today I wanted to show you the Greaten Music wind synthesizer. It is an electronic wind instrument. It's pretty big and it has a million different settings and capabilities. So get yourself some sort of sustenance because this is going to be a long video. And I'll try and give you as much information as I can about this incredible electronic wind instrument. Now first things first, this was sent to me for free. I'm not getting paid to make this video and I won't make money from this video from Greaten Music. They've just sent me the instrument for free in exchange for a review or demonstration video of their product. They've sent me the AP300. It came from China. It didn't take too long to arrive and it was well packaged, all arrived safely. It came with a detailed card showing you everything on the front and the back of the instrument, a storage or carry pouch. It is Velcro and it has a strap on the back and the instrument fits inside. It came with a replacement mouthpiece and the screwdriver you need to change it, a neck strap, and of course the instrument itself, which is gorgeous. Now I have reviewed an electronic wind instrument before. It was a lot smaller than this one is. This one is considerably larger. It's red, which I really like. It has the AP300 written on the side on both sides. Before I get into showing you anything about this, let me give you the product specifications that are on the box itself. Battery is 3,700 milliampere hours. Charging mode is USB. Current draw is maximum 2.0A. Battery life is 5 hours. Product dimensions are 645 millimeters long by 60 millimeters wide and 60 millimeters high. The weight is 682 grams. The accessories include the USB cable, user manual, neck strap, mouthpiece, cap, and soft case. The MIDI type is USB MIDI, and the connectors are stereo 3.5 millimeter headphone output, 6.35 millimeter audio output, and USB for power charging and USB MIDI supported. Now, despite this being from China, the user guide is very well organized. It's easy to understand and it's well translated, which I'm very happy about. Oftentimes, the Chinese to English translation makes things a little bit difficult to try and work out how to use your new instrument, but this is really great. Inside, you've got a quick start introduction, a section on how to operate the instrument. It gives you the basics of hooking it up to a computer to use it as a MIDI controller, also hooking it up to an amp, or where you can put your headphones if you want to play silently. It also tells you how to change the mouthpiece, how to change the instrument, the breath settings, and everything else. And then the further you go into the manual, it tells you about the fine tuning you can do with this instrument to get the exact sound, breath pressure, vibrato, everything you could imagine on this particular instrument. And right at the back, we even have finger charts for all the different finger settings that you can use. For example, standard, saxophone, oboe, and flute. So let's have a look at the actual instrument. Starting at the top here, you can see the Greaten Music logo right here, the mouthpiece, which currently has the mouthpiece cap on top. And if I move down the front of the instrument, you'll see these finger pads here. Now, depending on the settings you put this, you'll use some or all of these keys along the front. There are so many. The straight keys here, the little additional ones, tend to give you a little bit more flexibility with the notes, whereas for the tin whistle community that are watching, the large round holes are the ones that we'll be using on this instrument. There are also two little buttons here, and these are sort of quick reference buttons to pre-saved settings that you can use if you choose. There's nothing much else at the front, but as we move to the bottom, you'll see the gap here for plugging into an amplifier, and this little hole here which allows any accumulated saliva or all those lovely condensation things to drip from the bottom of the instrument. At the sides, you can see we have the AP300, and that is on both sides of the instrument. There aren't a lot of other things on the red sides, but as we move to the back, this is where everything becomes more complicated. We've got a little electronic screen here, which is really useful. We've got 6 buttons here which allow you to change the volume, the sound, the vibrations, everything you can think of. All the settings are from these 6 buttons here. We've got a little knob that we can rotate here. This allows you to scroll through the different settings available. Further down, we have what is called the slide plate and the octave buttons. Now, these sensors are very sensitive. They do roll as well, but each of these allows you to move up or down an octave as you're playing. The slide bar here allows you to make some very strange noises. I'll come to that later on. As we move further down, there are some bank buttons. These are where you can put your preset preferences. So if you wanted to have one set up as a tin whistle, you can save that here. You might want another one set up as a bagpipe in a different key, and you can save that here. These are really useful. As we go further down, you'll notice this little metal hook here, and that's where we attach our neck strap. The neck strap is adjustable, so you can adjust it to take some of the weight of the instrument itself. We have a little thumb hole underneath here, and that is where you're going to rest your thumb. This is what helps you hold the instrument. Further down, we have a little slidable button, and this allows us to bend some notes in very cool ways, up, down, or side to side. As we move further down the instrument, we have the on and off button here. We've got this little USB connection here which allows you to charge the instrument and also to attach it to your computer to use it as a wind instrument MIDI controller. We've also got a little jack here for putting headphones in so you can play silently. You'll see the speaker here, and that's pretty much everything. Now, I would definitely recommend the use of the neck strap because this instrument is pretty heavy. It says that it's lightweight on the box. Trust me, it's not, but it's probably similar to other saxophones and instruments of that size. The neck strap allows you to take some of the weight off the instrument. You can adjust it using this little gold plate here, and what that will do is that will allow you to put it in the right place. You can tuck your thumb under the thumb rest there, and then the instrument is well supported. Now, for my audience, most are tin whistle players, and the one amazing thing about the AP300 from Greaten Music is that it does have a tin whistle fingering setting. It's actually a dizzy setting, but dizzy is the same fingering as tin whistle. So definitely if you play tin whistle, you can play this using the same fingering that you use on tin whistle. And that is why I agreed to review this instrument. The one thing this instrument lacks is the ability to slide from one note to another very cleanly. But what you can do because of the recognition of breath that this instrument has and all the settings you can play around with, you can make it a lot more smooth than you could on the previous electronic wind instrument that I reviewed. So that is a plus. For me, the most difficult thing about playing this instrument is getting to grips with the octave change. Once you get used to that, I'm sure this will be a lot of fun to play. But let's start by hearing a little bit of how my first preset sounds. So let me show you how some of the buttons work. If we press the volume button, we can change volume from 0 to 127. The sound button allows us to scroll through 100 different sounds, everything from organs to accordions to drum sets, whistles, panpipes, bagpipes, and so much more. The effects button allows us to do two things. It can add chorus from 0 to 127, or it can also add reverb from 0 to 127. Next up we have the transpose button, and that allows us to change the key of our instrument. Everything and anything you could possibly imagine. The finger button allows us to cycle through 8 different fingering configurations. So we've got standard, saxophone, flute, oboe, trumpet 1 and 2, dizzy and halluci fingering options. For any of the tin whistle players watching, you'll need the dizzy setting because the Chinese dizzy flute has the same fingering as tin whistle. Now, if we go to the set button, there are hundreds of different settings we can do here. The first setting is key delay, and this allows you to change how responsive the instrument is, how quickly it plays the notes that you've tapped on the finger pads at the front. Next, we have pitch bend, and again you've got settings from 0 to 127. Moving on to option 3, we have tuning, and this allows you to fine-tune the instrument. So if you're playing, or you want to play, for example, in 432 rather than 440, you can adjust your settings here. If I click again, we get to semit key. The semit key options are open or closed. Moving on, we have the breath requirements, and we've got sense, Sense CC1 and Sense CC2. And each of these allow you, again, to cycle through different settings from 0 to 119. You can choose which of these sense settings you want to play around with. If we click the Set button and we move to Byte, we've got the option of vibrato type, amp, sense, or vib CC. Now if we click into vibrato type, we've got vibrato, semi-auto, and full auto. And these just basically either do the vibrato for you or allow you to do it yourself with the mouthpiece. You can do that by biting on the mouthpiece as you play. If we check out the other options here of amp, sense, you can put the sensitivity in here as well. Again, these scrollable settings are pretty extensive. Vib CC allows you down, up, or close. CC1, CC2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on and so forth. I'm not entirely sure what all these settings do at this stage, but there are lots of things you can play around with. Moving our function button up again, we have the option to bend up, bend down, adjust, or reset. And if you go all the way through to reset and let go, it will reset the whole instrument to factory settings and you'll start from scratch. This will also clear your pre-saved settings here, so just bear that in mind. The best thing to do is not remain on it and go back to key delay at the start, so if you accidentally press it, you don't reset the whole instrument again. Now, as a demonstration of the slide plate here, if you play a note and you slide your finger up this plate here, it gives you this sound effect. The individual little rollers and sensors here are actually the different octaves. So you've got your lowest octave here, and the further up you go, the higher the octave it goes. These are actually the most complicated part for me, actually remembering to move your thumb up one of these little rollers in order to move up the octave is kind of counterintuitive for a tin whistle player. They're also really sensitive. So I find two things. It's quite complicated to get that fingering correct to start with, but also it's really difficult to be accurate when you're doing this. This is definitely the biggest learning curve and the hardest part of playing this instrument. As an example, this is what I need to do to move up the octave. As you can hear, I don't always get it right. It is very difficult. As we move down, I've mentioned these preset buttons before. If you choose your settings here and then you press and hold one of these buttons, it will save to that setting. Next time round, you just need to short press and your setting will come back. Now this button itself is quite interesting. Let me give you a little example of how it sounds if I wiggle this around. So now you have some idea of the settings available on this. Let me take you through some of the different sounds that you have available to see if any of these suit. You can even use a drum setting, which sounds like this. So one of the cool features on this instrument is that you can also use the mouthpiece to create vibrato, or you can use settings within this instrument to have the vibrato done for you. At the moment, I've got it set on DIY, do it myself. It doesn't say DIY for a setting, but that's what I've got it set on. And it works like this. And you hear that as you bite the mouthpiece up and down, it vibrates the sound. Now, one recommendation with the mouthpiece is that you gently bite it, also that you gently put your lips over it, and you kind of let air come out either side of your mouth like this. What that does is it allows a lot of the condensation and a lot of the saliva to actually come out around the mouthpiece rather than going straight through, which will make things a lot less drippy at the bottom, which is a good thing. There are also different sensitivities of breath pressure on this one. So if I blow very gently, it sounds like this. If that's picking up on the mic, it's really quiet. But if I blow more strongly with more force, it sounds like this. So as you see, you can vary the amount of breath to change the amount of volume coming out of the instrument. So now you have some of the details on how to operate this thing. Let me give you some of my thoughts on the instrument. Firstly, I love the fact that there are so many settings. If you're one of those people who wants to spend the time to go through these settings, you can really customize this instrument, and I think that is fantastic. Having 100 different instrument sounds on there is something really special. It means that you can choose drums or trombone or violin for whatever sound you want this instrument to create, and you can still stick with the same finger patterns that you're used to playing, but play another sounding instrument, which is really cool. One very impressive thing about this is the 8 different finger settings available. So if you're a saxophone player, you can choose the saxophone finger setting, and you can play this with the same fingering that you would a regular saxophone. The same applies to if you play flute or oboe, or of course if you play tin whistle, like I mentioned earlier. All of the information on the different fingering settings are in the book, the user manual that comes with this, so that's really fantastic. The fact that you have so many different effect options, sound options, volume options, and all these other interesting settings that allows you to customize each of the buttons on this instrument is awesome. I love the fact that you can make this completely customizable. It is perfect for playing silently. You can take this anywhere and play it silently by plugging headphones into this, and that is amazing. But you can also play this out and about, plugging this into an amplifier for if you want to make more noise than this instrument provides, using that plug at the bottom. So this is great for practice at home. It's also great for live performances, outdoors. This can be used as a MIDI controller. So that means you can plug this into your computer, open some DAW software, and use this as a controller. You can play music into your computer from this, and it will recognize it within the software. That is something that people often want from an electronic instrument, and not something you see that readily with electronic wind instruments in particular. Usually MIDI controllers come in the form of a keyboard. It's really nice to have one in the form of a wind instrument. It's very cool that you can vary the amount of breath you put in and get different results. You can get vibrato by biting, or you can put it on automatically, and you can also get some good dynamics with the breath pressure that you apply. The controls themselves, when you're working through them, are really easy to set. The little knob takes a little while to scroll through things, but it's quite convenient really. And yeah, with the user manual being so clear, it's easy to work your way and find your way through each of those settings. I like the fact that you can pre-save your favorite settings. I think that's really useful. It's a big time saver. I like the fact that you can bend notes and create some really interesting sounds with the slide feature. And of course, the fact that you can jump through so many different octaves and even start out with so many different keys. So as an example of the full range of the octave buttons, let me give you a little play. I'm going to open my first preset, which we're currently on clarinet in the key of D. I'll start at the lowest noise this will make. I like that some of the buttons allow you to bend the notes, like this, and add little flourishes like this. I also like the fact that it comes with a storage bag and the neck strap, which is really useful because it is pretty heavy. Now for me, some of the cons, I find that changing up the octave is really difficult. I find that the neck strap rattles somewhat quite loudly on the instrument here, which can be a little bit distracting. I find it quite heavy. You can't really clean this instrument as such, so I don't know over time how nice it would be to blow, but you do get a replacement mouthpiece, so at least you can change that. The sounds obviously do sound electronic, but they are a little bit more improved in comparison to other versions I've tried. I love the fact that you can play with all these different finger settings, but there are two little buttons here, which are shortcut buttons to settings 3 and 4, your presets, your bank buttons. And I kind of end up hitting these all the time because they're in the way. So I'm playing something and then I'll accidentally hit one, and then it'll change from my first setting, which is clarinet, and then all of a sudden I'll be on accordion. So it might be worth making bank 3 and bank 4 the same as bank 1 and bank 2 so that you can kind of, I don't know, if you hit those buttons, it won't be the end of the world. There is a little bit of distortion in the louder volume range, and I'm at volume 80 out of like 127, so there's a little bit of distortion sometimes. And for example, on the bagpipe setting, I can't get the bagpipe setting to play anything other than full blast, full volume, no matter what volume I'm on, or it basically doesn't recognize the breath pressure that you put in on the bagpipe setting, which, I mean, bagpipes are loud, so it's kind of appropriate, but still. Yeah, that's maybe one little thing for me that I think is quite difficult. Now I'll put the current retail price for this one up on screen. So it is retailing currently for this price. This is subject to change, obviously, as time goes on, things tend to go up, prices tend to fluctuate. When I made this review, this was the price of this instrument. One thing I can tell you is I think that is really reasonable for what you get here, which is something that is extremely customizable and will be able to produce a lot of sounds. It's a value for money item because you're getting a lot more out of this than you would if you paid for an instrument that wasn't electronic, that didn't have all these options at a similar price. Now I've been playing this pretty much all day. I've not noticed any change in the battery levels whatsoever, so I can definitely say it's gonna stick around. The battery levels are great. I fully charged it when it first came, and I've played it ever since on that first charge. So yeah, that's pretty impressive. Now I haven't demonstrated the various different finger settings. Again, these are all shown in the manual. It just utilizes these additional sort of buttons, finger pads, sensors you can see at the front here, which for tin whistle players we wouldn't use, but they are still there. You can play around with those finger settings if you want to. I think overall I'm really pleased that I own this instrument. It isn't necessarily something that I would have bought, but now I've tried it, it is something that I would consider buying in the future. I think if you're brand new to instruments and this is going to be your only instrument, this is actually a good place to start because you can choose the finger setting that works best for you, that you find the easiest to play, and you can learn from scratch on this instrument. And it gives you so many different options. I think if you're already a saxophone player or a flautist or you play tin whistle, You could maybe get this, but it's not going to be the same as playing the instrument you currently play. There is a lot of work involved to learn and understand how to play this instrument correctly and to the best of your ability. It's not going to be like, because you can play saxophone, you can pick this up and play this instantly. 100% it's not going to be like that, so just bear that in mind. So, I think that covers everything that I can show you in one sitting. If I've missed anything and you have questions, comments or suggestions, let me know down below and I'll try my best to answer, or of course Greaten Music might come on and try and answer as best they can as well. I'll put the links to where you can buy this in the description down below. Thank you so much for watching and sticking with me if you're still here. Have fun, happy instrument playing, and I'll see you folks again soon. Bye!